Hey guys, Ted with Nerdarchy here, for Nerds by Nerds. With me is Dave, and today we're going to talk about Game Master Tips, your NPCs. So we've got the staple of your game. Every single thing that's not a player is a non-player character. It can be a massive weight on a DM who has to essentially fill a world with non-player characters. What do you
Millions and billions of them.
think?
It can be if you let it. And there's different approaches to this. In my earlier gaming days, I would stat people up and write all this stuff down and come up with these really cool NPCs and ideas and stuff for my PCs to interact with.
And you'd probably spend hours a week planning each session and whatnot, and probably half the campaign material that you wrote was thrown to the wayside.
And that happens quite often. So, you know what? As a game master, as a DM, I find a lot of times I made the mistake of assuming it's my game. And it's not. It's a cooperative, it's a collective game based on me and my players.
Right.
So, where we really get into a problem is when the DM really thinks his story and his game is more important than the collective. And it causes tensions and frictions and that we'll end up with one of two things: material you've written that you're not going to use, or you're railroading your PCs into doing things they never really wanted to do.
Right.
What I found was a nice balance to get away from that was I only write a couple sentences about any given thing.
Okay.
So, and the same applies to PCs, like or my NPCs. So if I know that they're going to go to a certain location, or I might have several locations that they can choose to go to, because I want to go to a tavern, I want to go to an inn. Okay, well, which one do you want to go to? And I give them a couple of choices. Well, I may have already written down the taverns and who owns them and who runs them, but that's it. It's only a couple sentences. Or not even. It might literally be a list of, okay, inns, the name, the owner, the person they're going to encounter.
Right.
And then as we go through the session and they interact with these NPCs, I may, do that stuff on the fly and ad-lib what they look like, how they sound, their traits and their characteristics, and I'll write them down as I do that. And so I end up with this collection of NPCs that I have invested a lot of time into. Each one just has a couple scribbles on a piece of paper about them. And then how I will generally determine how important they are is when my PCs go back to them.
Right.
If I've created people that my PCs want to interact with on a regular basis, then I flesh them out a little more and a little more. As the PCs interact with them each time, they grow in their depth. So, and also what I've gotten from that is my players have cued me onto which NPCs they actually want to talk to and interact with, and they're starting to care about.
Right.
So I can then further use those characters, as adventure hooks or foils or whatever, and the players have already started to care about them on their own. They made the conscious decision.
Right.
And that's kind of how I've gone about it. And I just build them a little bit by little bits, instead of making this, in-depth character, basically a full character sheet plus that may or may not get used.
Right.
And it took me years to figure that out. I don't know. What's your approach to the NPC?
For the most part, when I'm designing, my campaign, I've done, a couple different things. I've never really gone and statted out tons of people, tons of characters to be able to use in a campaign. I've just never devoted that much time to running a game. I do a little bit more on the fly work, sometimes including up to, combat stuff. But when it comes to a person in a tavern, I'm going to make stuff up on the fly, every single time. And, as long as the players remember that name or I write it down and they want to come back to it, I can build more along with that, similar to what you do. But basically, I've used it as a way for the players to really determine how important somebody actually is, unless it's actually pivotal to my story. I'm not as accomplished as a DMD as you. I haven't done quite as many subplots that tie in together as well. I'm working on getting to that level. But I just haven't as much DM time as you. So as far as the NPCs, on the fly work that I try and do is I try to determine, okay, when they're deciding to talk to this guy, what kind of level is this person? Are they somebody that wants to help and be a protagonist? Are they more along the side of the antagonist, or somewhere in the middle? And then to make them memorable, to make them more real person, you have to give them feelings, emotion, descriptions, and interact with that concept. If they're working with the antagonist, or at least favorable towards the antagonist in the game, you have to give them something that could be a subtle clue that they're not wanting to help, that they want to do this or that they want to do that. Give the PCs a chance to actually uncover this subplot or whatnot, or just make them blatantly refusing of whatever the players want. Get out of my face. I have no desire to talk to you. And on the flip side, if they're on the side of the protagonist, if they want to help out the party, and they happen to be greatly influential, either wealthy or whatnot, maybe they should have a reason to not just let me draw my sword and join you. How do you keep NPCs that are on that vein from doing everything they can to just aid the party? Here, let me give you my family sword. Let me give you an extra 100 gold pieces to help you in this cause. There's got to be a reason for that, so that not every single player is going to be giving far more aid than the players really should have. And then when there's then if you have an NPC that's somewhere in the middle, maybe they're kind of overcome by fear that the players, these heroes, are interacting with this commoner, this peasant, who does not want to be drawn into the situation and fears that some vile villain might be right around the corner. And they're like, all right, I'll help, I'll answer questions and whatnot, but I need you gone as quickly as possible. Trying to usher them out the door, and you might let the players get hint that that's someone who's neutral, might be hiding something, and it could be just that blatant fear, but the players might not know that. And this way they've got the ability to possibly read more into something than is really there, adding for more depth and more layers to the actual game.
Well, like you said, about the subplots. So almost every NPC you introduce into the game is the opportunity to weave a subplot.
Right.
One of the really interesting things about 5th edition is that a lot of the features involve these kinds of NPCs as basically has become a class feature, or not a class feature, but a background feature for your character. And the criminal background is you get a criminal contact, right, an NPC that is favorable towards you, but may not necessarily always do what you want.
Right.
So a lot of these features for the backgrounds are actually just role-playing opportunities that have been introduced into the game, which then can be subplots, because anytime you have an interaction with an NPC, whether it's they need your help or you need their help, it becomes a double-edged sword that cuts both ways.
Right.
Or maybe the princess you freed from the dragon becomes a reoccurring character, for whatever reason, in Mario Brothers style, where you have to rescue her every episode, or
or Link style, she's kind of become your boss.
Or just in social situations, and it just makes things more interesting when you have all these nuances going on. And the best ones are the ones that the players choose and they keep gravitating towards. And it's like you said, you don't want to outshine the players by giving them things they shouldn't have access to, or they're doing this stuff for an archmage. Why doesn't he just go stomp on himself? So you then have to kind of come up with these interesting reasons for them not to do it themselves, and to not outshine your players and have it all still mixed together in a relevant way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the hallmarks of a good game is the memorable NPCs in it. You know, that the ones that haven't outshined your player characters, but actually enhance them.
Right.
You know, help them to shine. And that's the real trick. You know, and getting your players emotionally attached to them. So when you kill them, they really feel bad. But
there's a story there.
There's probably several stories there, but you know, that's the objective. You know, really, you know, as role players, we tend to be creative. You know, and to really, a real expression of creativity is actually invoking emotion in another human being through your art. Well, our art is tabletop role playing. We create,
right.
Whether it's a campaign world, whether it's a shared story, whether it's a favorite player character or a favorite NPC. You know, we're kind of like artists creating this thing and trying to, you know, get everyone emotionally involved with it. So that's what a good non-player character does, in my opinion.
I agree.
So with that, you know, you guys let us know what your favorite NPCs are. And by the way, if you want some really good examples of NPCs, right now on the nerdarchy.com website, Nerdarchist Nubs is doing a series on character alignment. And he's doing it through NPCs that he's previously created and used. And he's doing it in an interview style where he Nubs is traveling through time and space to go interview these people. And he's already gotten drunk off his ass and nearly been maced. So, you know, it's been a good read. It's interesting, and it's a really good example of some powerful NPCs. You know, not just in powerful in the sense of their stature, but also their presence and how beloved those characters can become in a campaign.
If you want, you can also put in, you know, in the comments below what you do or what you feel is a good tip towards creating memorable NPCs. You know, maybe you got something that we didn't touch on, or you know, maybe you disagree with us. You know, that's what the comment section's for. Other than that, I would click like, subscribe. Obviously, you found us here on YouTube, and Dave talked about our website, nerdarchy.com. You can also check us out on Facebook.
We're all over the place. As my brother likes to say, you can't swing a dead goblin without hitting Nerdarchy on the interwebs. So with that, my friends, until next time, stay nerdy.